Chapter 31. Dante naturally decided to do neither. He grabbed a whole wad of clothes and covered himself. With them on him like this, he looked to be a lazy fellow who didn't want to carry more than 2 batches of clothes from the drying line into the house. He then smashed through the window of the shop and charged towards the enemy, who was walking over slowly. Naturally, Dante's actions had been quick enough that he maintained a slight element of surprise, not to mention the randomness of seeing a man layered with unworn clothes charging at you. Even worse, Dante threw the bundle of clothes at him, blocking his view. Even as he fired, he could tell he missed Dante and tried to take a step back to create distance. But he was forced to dodge when an axe flew through the clothes and tried to latch itself to his forehead. It was only after his desperate dodge that the man understood what happened and how he was about to die. After all, he could see the shadow of Dante from his crouched position since he ducked to avoid the axe that was thrown as fast as a bullet. His expression became solemn, and he was about to beg to distract his foe when he felt a leg smash the back of his head and send him nose first into the tiled floor of the wall. His skull burst open like a watermelon, the innards and pieces of brain mush flying about like splatter. Dante stared at the corpse for a short while before picking up the gun he held. It wasn't that a young man like him was mysteriously immune to death, but rather that he had ordered his AI chip to suppress the urge to vomit and the rising chaos of emotions forcefully. He would deal with it after. Now that he was armed, Dante could begin the proper process of the testing. He detected that the rest of the men were heading toward his location, giving up on their plan to slaughter civilians. They could also detect with their own psionics that their teammate had been killed, and they were aware that Dante was likely armed. Basically, it was like playing an online multiplayer shooter with both teams having access to radar. While you could see the blue and red dots, it didn't mean you could see the exact details of what was going on. Dante also rapidly approached his enemies head-on and began firing when he encountered the vanguard. He had not taken any gun lessons because he never felt the need to, but with his dexterity boosted to 20 times the standard of a pure human in this universe, which was more than twice the standard of a pure human on Earth, his aim was enough to get the job done. Dante shot, rushed forward speedily towards new cover, shot again, and then challenged a swarm of foes in hand-to-hand combat. Once again, no training, so the battle was more like a street fight, but unfortunately, his foes had basic hand-to-hand combat training. So he got his ass beat up and then shot many times before fleeing. Dante evaded the pursuers long enough that his injuries healed under the starkly increased vitality and began fighting once more. He lost again and was shot many times until he could barely walk. Eventually, he was captured, and once he reached this stage, the instance came to an end. Congratulations, user Dante. You have completed an instance of the testing world using random parameters. After calculation, your score is valued to be at the C rank. Dante was not bothered by the average score. He had no training, no skills, and no techniques. His tactics were unrefined and barbaric, while his choices and decisions were questionable at best and suicidal at worst. If it wasn't for the fact that he wasn't killed but was only captured, his score could have been worse. However, it was enough for Dante. He had tasted the full power of his new enhancements and understood how much stronger they made him. The test had been perfectly completed. Now all that was left was for him to train these abilities. As by Pub Future still, that was for later. Right now, Dante had to deal with the after effects of the suppression of his emotional reaction to the cold-blooded killing of his fellow man. So he logged out and got up, calmly walking to the bathroom before emptying out his gut. After clearing his internals, he forced himself to remember that nasty scene of his legs squashing the opponent's head like a watermelon and began a new round of dry heaving. Dante then washed his face and rinsed his mouth thoroughly before going to sit on his bed. He simply sat there for a long time, thinking about many things and what to do next. He sighed, lay his head down, and then slept after making his AI chip secrete the necessary hormones to induce sleep. His plan was to rest for a bit before thinking about what came next. This was naturally a great idea, as when he woke up a few hours later, when the sky was darkening, he felt refreshed and his mind was clear. His reaction to his memory of killing was much weaker than before, and he was sure that active conflict would not disgust him so much again. Now that he was much better, Dante thought about his next step. This was naturally to increase his SDI by as much as he could until he caught up to the others. There was no reason for others to have such high base stats, and he did not. The only way to achieve this was to utilize the gene enhancement technology of this universe. This was a gradual process requiring multiple treatments over time as he boosted and perfected his genetics bit by bit. There was no shortcut for this unless you had a superpower. There was nothing like a super secret military gene enhancer that could turn a dog into a god, and all he needed to do was have willpower and grit his teeth through the pain. Ads by Pub Futurit would take years of treatments, and the only thing that can quicken it is if you want big treatments or small treatments. Also, maybe your genetic chains were more adaptable and resilient than others, so it could take more modification in a shorter period of time. That was far more realistic and was probably what separated the geniuses from the average ones in terms of raw SDI. As a student of a unique batch, Dante could get up to 15 progressive gene treatments for free over the course of his first year. Everything after that would have to be paid for through Supercoin. As far as Dante knew, the elite batch should get 10 free treatments and the normal batch 5. Now, Supercoin, this vaunted and much valued currency of the Eternal Academy. How does one earn it? To discuss Supercoin, which was integral to all of the Academy systems, one would also have to discuss the Academy systems themselves. The first was tuition. The Eternal Academy did not take a tuition fee. From the arrogance those teachers displayed, it was likely they would directly say that they did not need your money. The school was run by donations from almost every faction in the universe. In fact, wars were literally fought over who got to donate to the Eternal Academy and by how much in a given school year. As for why factions would do this, it was easy enough to guess. Tuition was handled not through typical classroom teaching. This was an advanced sci-fi universe, and even modern Earth was trying to move the classroom to the online platform. How could this society still rely on such things? Especially when you consider the effect of AI chips and psionics. With such tools, why should a person sit in a library or read books when they could carry an entire library right in their brains? And the truth was as such. When Dante received the information at the orientation, it included everything he needed to learn for his freshman school year. All the learning materials and information that a teacher would normally explain bit by bit were airdropped into his brain. With the AI chip, he could then ratify it and then master the knowledge, accessing it at any time. So why have schools? Why not just do this for every citizen from childhood and let them learn what they needed to from a young age? The truth was that this solved only one problem with regards to tuition, and that was the acquisition of theoretical knowledge. We wasted most of our youth stuffing knowledge into our heads to apply it in the middle stages of our lives with varying success. However, AI chips cut out all those years and allowed one to acquire the knowledge now. So what else would education and tuition do but use all that time to make sure that the theory is turned into an applicable skill through practicals? Chapter 32, the second aspect of the Academy system, at least for the unique batch, is the focused training of superpowers. As the faction with the access to the most superpowered users, one could say it definitely ranked at the top of eligible parties to declare that they were qualified to teach about the esoteric subject. This, surprisingly, was a mixture of theory and practical, unlike basic tuition subjects. Dante would actually have to go to an area near the Zero Gate called the Black Land to learn and train his power with other unique batch students. Checking the details of the Black Land, it was basically an area around the Zero Gate where energy from the other realm that produced superpowers leaked into our universe and formed a domain. Those with natural superpowers or acquired superpowers could absorb this energy actively to improve the upper limit of their superpower's ability and unlock new skills or abilities within their superpower. Of course, this wasn't the only way. One could simply train in the use of their superpower and practice endlessly, and they would also make progress. But as you could imagine, it was entire levels slower than just absorbing this strange energy. The third system was the shop, where one could purchase anything: enhancements for genes, enhancement for bionics, and enhancement for psionics. Even enhancements for AI chips were available, and all of them cost the ever-desirable supercoin. Bionics, psionics, and AI chips were obviously not limited to level 1. There were levels 2 and above, which all increased the functionality of these enhancements and added new, unique effects to them. Beatrice, for example, had bionics and psionics above level 20. Lord knew what her power would be like if she erupted. Whether it was tuition, the Black Land, or the shop, all of them required supercoin in order to make full use of their capability. In the field of tuition, extra courses could be applied for using supercoin, while more secretive knowledge could be acquired and trained. In the field of the Black Land, the initially allocated times for cultivation were decided by year and grade of superpower. Any extra time or slot needed to be purchased with supercoin. In the field of enhancements, every level above 5 needed to be bought for bionics, psionics, and AI chips, while the gene enhancement from the second year ongoing would have to be bought as well. Basically, as a student of the Eternal Academy, you were entitled to a certain amount of free things up to your fourth and final year. If you did not earn a single supercoin, you could still graduate spectacularly regardless of what batch you were in and be above students from other academies universe-wide. However, this was your one and only chance to be a student of this academy in your entire lifetime, who would be content to just enjoy all the basic services and then leave without tasting the reason why everyone tossed their kids here madly. It was impossible. So the one way to earn supercoin was through extracurricular activities. Not even good grades of exemplary schoolwork could get you supercoin, but these so-called extracurricular activities? What were these extracurricular activities? Was it stuff like clubs, sports, and other such vocational-related activities in most schools? Or was it like missions and stuff where the school would make you sign a death waiver and then you'd risk your life fighting on some battlefront for merit? It was neither. Extracurricular activities were completely safe, fun, and mostly benefited you, the individuals, rather than the school itself. If you thought about it, the nature of these extracurricular activities was obvious from the beginning and had been hinted at many times. Dante logged onto the quantum network and then headed to the Eternal Academy section of the Etriverse. There he saw hundreds of worlds that were set up by the school, and in their description tags, there was the amount of supercoin a student would be rewarded, depending on their evaluation, for clearing the score in the world. The worlds were of many types, but most of them had very tough requirements and objectives. They were sorted out by their difficulty, and Dante checked the top 3 most visited worlds by students. World name: Apocalypse World World Owner, Eternal Academy World Creator, Eternal Academy World Size, Small World Type, Shared World Genre, Survival Bionics Allowed, No Psionics Allowed, No Superpowers Allowed, Yes Requirements, Student ID Duration, 30 days Description. This is a special post-nuclear war world from the era when humanity was still trapped on the planet. Technology has become backwater, and people are struggling to survive amidst the dangerous radiation and mutated beasts. However, some individuals have awakened special abilities to combat these beasts and have become local overlords, forming their own territories and trying to survive in this wasteland of death. Objectives: survive for 30 days to pass. Ads by pub future limitations. AI chips will be switched off, and your basic SDI will be reduced to the base of the pure human race. Provisions: ratified knowledge can be taken in, and there is a present power system in the world. The number 1 was an apocalypse world, which was frequented by over 40 million students since its foundation and had over 500,000 students currently staying in this world at this moment. That was more than 70% of the student body, so that told you how popular it was. Dante researched the school forum about this world and saw many guides and information about the world. It seemed that the reason for its popularity was that it was one of the few worlds that allowed normal people to acquire a superpower through the VR world's own rules without having to bring their own in. So the casuals of the normal and elite batch swarmed this world to enjoy what the unique batch students got for free. Obviously, the unique batch students hardly ever frequented this world unless forced to, because it didn't allow them to gain any advantages. Dante shook his head and then checked the second one. World name: Death Game World Owner, Eternal Academy World Creator, Eternal Academy World Size, Tiny World Type, Instanced World Genre, Strategy, Thriller Bionics Allowed, Yes Psionics Allowed, Yes Superpowers Allowed, No Requirements, Student ID Duration, 7 days Description. This is a small urban city set in the modern day, which is full of life and vibrant. However, underneath the liveliness and joy is a dark war that has been ongoing since a certain key event occurred. You are one of the 12 assassins of the Order. Due to an internal dispute, only one of you can live and must identify them to kill the others. Objectives: be the last one standing or have the most kills by the end. Ads by pub future limitations. Psionic sensing will be switched off, but other enhancements will be allowed. Provisions: regrades of methods, or SDI. One strike with a weapon will kill a target. This world was darker and more brutal. 12 players would queue and get an instance of the world where they would have a random urban setting. They were then given disguises and ways to hide themselves and must now observe and locate the others in the city using tactics, guile, and wits to come out on top. This was a world that purely trained critical thinking, deduction, and observation. In truth, these three things were the cornerstone of an intelligent person. So having students earn supercoin from this was a genius way to turn idiotic and lazy students into capable young powerhouses. Dante made it a priority to try this world and see where he stood on the IQ ladder. World name: Pirate Incursion World Owner, Eternal Academy World Creator, Eternal Academy World Size, Tiny World Type, Instanced World Genre, Survival Bionics Allowed, Yes Psionics Allowed, Yes Superpowers Allowed, Yes Requirements, Student ID Duration, 1-day description. This is a world that has been styled after a basic space pirate attack. You start after you have been defeated in the battle and are being boarded. So you must either kill all the pirates and repair your ship to leave, repair your ship and escape, or find a way to preserve a third of your crew and escape to safety. Objectives: eliminate all the pirates, detach their tractor beam from your ship, or escape with at least 30% of your crew to pass. Limitations: all enemies will have random bionics, psionics, AI chips, and even superpowers allocated to them. They will also be of random races and have differing SDIs. Provisions: you have your full range of power and can rely on the skills of your crew to assist you. This world was absolutely genius. In a universe like this with high sci-fi, not everyone could travel in a dreadnought belonging to an admiral like Dante. Most people used either commercial transports or private spaceships, but regardless of the type, they're always susceptible to pirate attacks. After all, with great power came great irresponsibility.